Yet again, it is Fired Up Friday at Studio USA. I'm Rick, and I'm about to do my Magic Mind mocha shot or matcha shot, something like that. I just love whatever this is. It's good, and I want them to send me some.
Amen.
Yeah, my goal is Magic Mind and a Rambler. If I could get one of each by the end of the year, and Wayne, my superstar co-host Wayne here, is also having a delicious Rambler, and we've got Beth Caudell here. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are y'all?
We are doing well, and we are live, and we got our studio audience here, and we got like candid photos being taken. This is awesome. So, are y'all ready to consult the Oracle?
We're ready, I think.
All right, let's get fired up. So, today's topic is persistence. And the quote is, "Energy and persistence conquer all things." And that is from Benjamin Franklin. He knew a thing or two about a thing or two.
He did?
And let's say, revisit a past project or goal you've set aside and take new steps towards completing it. Boy, okay, I'm going to think about that. But okay, so guys, we'll just go right down the line and come back like so. So what comes to mind first with persistence?
Man, I think the first thing that comes to mind is you can't do the right thing. Doing the right thing eventually will work out, right? Like you can't not get a result by doing the right thing over and over and over and over. Whether you like that or not.
I love that.
What comes to mind is enthusiasm is really common. I think persistence is really rare, right? So everybody can get excited about
Sprinter.
it, but who can keep doing it? That's the name of the game.
Okay, for me, persistence is just keeping going. Be steady, Eddie. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. You need to take the time to figure out whatever that thing is you need to do to get to persistence, to get to the end goal, the end game of it all.
Love it. And so now Wayne is a coach and a productivity guy. And so are you a broker owner and with a team? And so how would you bring that into, like, is this teachable would be the question.
Yeah, for sure it's teachable. I am a broker associate, and I've been licensed for about 20 years, and I have a small team, and that's by choice because I like people that like to work. And so that's why I moved from a big team to a small team essentially, and I like to work with people who like to work, and they will, if they are truly wanting to learn and be productive, they'll learn and have tremendous success. If they're just wanting to say, hey, I'm on this awesome team, but I don't want to do anything, I just want you to feed me, then that's not going to work. So the people that are truly wanting to learn, that is teachable, very teachable for the ones that do want to know.
So Wayne, do you think this is a nature-nurture thing, or is that sort of grit or persistence, is that baked in or is that built?
Man, I think for most of us, you learn it over time, right? And for a lot of people, the biggest thing I see when it comes down to persistence is how many people, and I think it's this world we live in, we're hit with 100 other things. And I think for so many of us as business owners and entrepreneurs, we constantly live in a state of FOMO. Right, like we're constantly afraid of what am I missing out on? What's the thing? Right, these people, you go to something like family reunion, or you go to some big event or whatever it is, and you're hit with 48 things. It's if I just all these shiny objects. So I think one of the things we do as coaches is help someone dial into what are the 2 or 3 things, and really put blinders on to everything else, which is really hard because we're constantly afraid of what am I missing out on, right? But you've got to help your clients get really clear on, hey, there's 1,000 options, but the reality is it all works if you work it, right? The persistence thing. So how do you help your client pick the 2 or 3 that are going to be and then put blinders on to everything else? Because it can all work, but pick the 2 or 3 that line up with your personality, that line up with the lifestyle you want, the income you want, all those kinds of things, and then boil it all the way down from the year to the day. So it's what do I need to do on daily, right? What do I need to do every single day? If I do that every single day, it naturally, I don't have to worry about the goal when I get clear on the lead measures that are going to lead to the goal. And then the next step is, right, I got to get enough accountability in my life to make sure that I do it when I don't feel like doing it. And I think that's the hard part about persistence is it's easy to say, yeah, it's good, but can I do it when I don't feel like doing it? And I think it's a big difference between leaders and those that are failing is the leaders do what they say they're going to do, when the feeling goes away, right? They do it when they don't feel like doing it. And that's the hardest part about persistence, right? It's like, what do you do on the day you don't want to do it?
Yes. And kind of like what Beth said, where it's like, I prefer the folks that are just internal, like the internal motivation, which is, again, I'm not sure if it's nature or nurture, but there is an element of, it's easy to come out of the gate fast.
Yep.
And especially when it's like you think a thing is going to be a certain way. So
Yep.
for example, got a bunch of new photographers here today, and so this is awesome. I love the fact that all the young folks are. I'm just getting all these kids, which I hate saying that, but it's like I'm 55, so it's like but the idea of I can't make you want to fill in the blank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
I think motivation is built in. Like, I think you are born with some level of desire, or you're not. I really do. I mean, it was interesting. I did this huge deal for a bunch of leaders yesterday in Orlando, right? The biggest real estate agents in Orlando. And one of the things I asked them was, before I gave them the answers, I said, how many of you had a job in high school? Some sort of job. And almost every single one in the room, all of their hands went up. That's not a normal room, right? Most people didn't, right? But every single hand went up. And I go, I knew the answer. I knew that was going to be the case because you've been driven since a young age, right? Whether you did the yearbook, and I think it's within them. And I think you kind of, when you hire people, they kind of either have motivation or they don't. They have inner drive. It doesn't mean they're persistent and can focus, but like you can either have motivation and drive or you don't. We all need encouragement. But like, and I think like kind of like you're saying, the small team versus big team, I've made a commitment. I'm not going to coach anyone or have anybody on my team I have to drag. There's nothing more exhausting than trying to drag. I don't mind motivating somebody and helping somebody along. We all need a hug and a kick in the butt sometimes. But if I got to drag you, bro, like, not a win.
Absolutely. And so, Beth, so like in that regard, do you think that there's like sort of uniform characteristics of the folks that come to you that are, say, either driven or do they have a chip on their shoulder? Is it like they're trying to prove something, or is there
No.
anything you look for specifically?
No, I think they have to have some sort of motivation. You don't exactly know what that is, but you're going to find it, right? Or you're going to see it as they work with you because they continue to do good things. So that they have some drive that you may or may not know about. And then you just notice, hey, have you ever thought about this? Let's do this. Like my current, best buyer's agent ever she started with me in admin, and she was hostile at first, y'all. I mean,
I like her already.
And I'm just she's, she's from Central America, so she can also be feisty, and she wanted to learn the admin position and do all the things, but finally, I'm like, I really think you should be a buyer's agent. I think you need to go get your license. And it took her, and it was not until last year that she said, okay, I'm doing it. You need to find a new admin. I'm like, oh, which causes a whole new set of problems, right? But it's she's phenomenal. And I don't know that you can teach that when the switch flips. That's what I always say. When the switch flips, that's going to be their thing, and that's what they're going to do. And I had no idea, to be considered a successful leader or, doing well in business, you had to have a job when you were 15. I did, but I didn't know that was a thing.
Is that interesting though? Yeah.
I didn't know that at all, but I think people throughout your life will say things, and they may not even know it, that trigger you to be amazing or successful or driven or, I had a failed business. It wasn't failed, but it was not financially rewarding. And
I've had a couple of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can convert, yes.
And I had gotten my real estate license right at the beginning of this business because I was like, I'm going to need something here in a couple of years, I'm pretty sure. And I got into real estate, and And so I went to a title person, and she says, well, do this key, call to action of all the people you had from your other business. And I mean, that really springboard launched me. And she goes, this is the time to go get the business. It's up to you. You do it. And you can make this happen. Like, you have that in you, Beth. And I'm like, oh my, do I? And I sent this, and I thought sending that letter out, it was a refrigerator magnet back then. It was kind of stupid.
Old school.
In my mind. Well, yeah, but this was like in the 2009, 8-ish era. And I thought it was real dumb. But I was like, that is the dumbest thing, but I'm going to do it. I'm just going to try it because, like, maybe you know a little bit more than me right now. And yeah, it worked. It springboarded me, you know. It was like the little.
Well, and to that, how much do y'all think that just doing, because it's like, I love that idea of like just do something, and then how much of the, I won't say persistence, but how much of that sort of energizing thing that comes from, oh shit, I can actually do this.
Right.
Or I'm doing a thing. You know, it isn't something like, oh, find your passion. What does that even mean? You know, but it's like, how much of that do you guys find? Because for me, it's like everybody sucks at everything the first time they do it. But if you stick with it, where the persistence comes in,
Yep.
something happens along the way that I tend to enjoy things more as I get better at them. And I try to impart that on the guys where it's like, look, you want to do this because, it's sexy and cool, you know, and you're going to make videos, you're going to do all this other stuff. And then it's like, yeah, until you're doing the 17th version of the same thing over and over again, and now it's a job, you know? So what do you think about that, though, where it's like the persistence actually, or the ability to persist comes from that little payoff that you get of like, oh, I can do this thing, or I'm doing a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, because for me, I didn't set out to do any of this, and then yet here I am, and it's like now I absolutely love it. I was here at 6:45 this morning, you know.
That's awesome.
But so how much do you think that is, like, as far as like the willingness and the persistence that comes from just getting a little bit better?
I think it gets easier as you go, like as far as that persistence. And I've always been one that I'm going to go after whatever it is I want. And not like that, but like, you know, like I'm going to try, and I'm going to try to be good to everybody and achieve a high level of success. But so I just go out and do it, and then people are responding, right? Like, and oh yeah, you're really good at this. And then, I mean, you hear that a lot, but like, don't let it get to your head, because they're going to tell you your things on Facebook that you're like, really? I'm not sure that's true. Like, like you just can't believe, they just like to be nice to you. But you do go, okay, maybe this is a lane for me. Maybe this is a path. I didn't ever go, well, I know what I want to be when I grow up. And I mean, I kind of wanted to be a veterinarian, but I never wanted to go to school that long. And because you have to go to school longer than a doctor if you're a veterinarian, something like that crazy. And I just think if you can find a lane that makes people happy, where you can help them and make their lives better, so for me, this is their biggest purchase of their lifetime, and help them understand through my experiences, what I've done. I've created a lane. I'm not going to be, do this now or you're going to regret it. Like I give them their options and let them decide what to do, and then they can choose to move that way. And I try to be really a friend to them as well at the same time, and not, pressure.
Right on.
I mean, I think it comes down to two parts in what you're saying. I think the first thing is you've got to celebrate some of the wins along the way. And I think that's one of the things that makes it tough for a lot of people, is like they're not enjoying the little gain, like you're talking about, like the little bit get better, the little get better, the little get better, right? And it's, as kids, like we enjoy learning how to ride a bike, even though you're falling off, right? But then as adults, like we expect, like, hey, if I want to do this, I read the book, I should be good at it tomorrow. And we don't allow ourselves to kind of celebrate, I stayed on the bike for 5 seconds, 20 seconds, wow, we're running on the whole thing, right? And so I think that's part of it. I think most entrepreneurs, and they need to give themselves, they need to acknowledge some of the wins, write some of those wins down, have some different levels of rewards they give themselves, whatever it is. So I think that's part of it. But then the other part is like enjoy the game. And I heard someone say this the other day, and I've been really thinking about it. They said, if you can enjoy playing the game as much as you enjoy winning the game, you'll succeed at life. I thought that was an interesting way. So to your point, like if you can enjoy the practice as much as you can enjoy just the handful of times you actually win, right? I think you can enjoy the whole journey a whole lot more.
Absolutely. And I think today a lot of folks get, I get it a lot where people always like, I want to do a podcast. I want to do, you know?
Yeah.
And now for me, you already know that like this came out of, I just needed something for the guys to train on because the first time we turned it on, it went out for 20 minutes with no sound. So, but then it turns out I love it. This is like the most fun I have all week. But I deal with folks a lot where, and this ties into the persistence, where they want a podcast, but in reality, they want how they perceive they're going to feel when other people find out they have a podcast. Versus, now, are you willing to do this? Like, or will you do 4 shows in one day? I said, because unless you do that and, maybe build up a back catalog or whatever, it's going to come, because it's basically like, well, then I say, what is it going to be about? Well, it could be about anything. It's like, theoretically, yes, but if it's about anything, then it's about nothing. Right. So it's like, if you don't have anything other than, I want to do this, well, then the persistence is going to come in when, as soon as, like, whatever that feeling is or whatever you think the feeling is going to be, either doesn't arrive or wears off quickly.
Right.
And so back to the whole, like, idea of, I love the Mike Tyson quote where, like, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Right. So it's like, for you guys, it's like, what do you do there whenever, because there's also the, the dip, where there's the time where it's like, okay, this isn't fun anymore. Or this is now entered into the realm of work. Mm-hmm. So like, what do you guys do to actually just keep that fire burning whenever it's not fun, or it's the tedious part? It's the very unglamorous, unsexy part of fill in the blank. So what do you do for y'all's internal motivation?
I think for me, the first thing is, do I have a clear vision of where I want to go? And then with my clients, a lot of what we do is, what's it going to take? Let's tally some of that price, and are you willing to pay the price? So instead of just like, I want a podcast, cool, I'm all in. Like, it's a little reckless, depending on what's going on the rest of your life, to make that commitment before you tally some of the costs. So it's going, like, kind of like you're saying, right? Like, I have clients who go, hey, I want to do a podcast. Like, awesome, okay, it's going to take you 5 hours a week. You just told me you didn't get this stuff done because you didn't have enough time. So I love you, and I'm totally behind this. Yet you've got to show me where we're going to do this. So what's going to come off, or what are we going to leverage, or what are we going to do different? And then let's tally the cost. And then if you're willing to pay that price, then I'm all over it. But I think part of it's just kind of doing that upfront work of like, am I willing? Here's the price. It's probably going to be 30% more than you think it is, whatever it is, and then making that commitment, and then having the vision. And I think the thing is, I love this. I read this in a book a while back. It said like, a great idea you can't execute well is probably a bad idea, at least for right now. So I think it goes back to our entrepreneurial mindset. We think that just because we have a great idea, we should take action on that. And it's like, do you want to have a handful of good things, or do you want to have or 2 or 3 great things? So I think it's part of the journey.
Right on. How about you, Beth? Like,
I totally understand what you're saying. I do goals every year, and sometimes those goals don't happen, right? So then I go back and I go, well, I want to try to do this myself. And then if I can't do that quite as well as I want to pull it off, I might then add people to the mix that can help me because listen, I'm not technology. I'm like old. And I was like, dang, I grew up with a typewriter, not a phone in my hand. I don't know all the tricks. So just know it's okay to kind of change and reroute the plan. So I get excited about those things, which even if I fail, like I still revisited it and came back and kind of restructured it. And so, and I work on those goals, and that's kind of how I think I stay motivated, besides being fairly busy in the real estate space as well. But also, if you don't please somebody or make it just the way they want it, I do sit there and think about it. Like, I'm a pretty nice person, and what is this all about? Like, is this me or is this them? Like, because you don't know these people's experiences a lot of times before they come to you. So maybe you give yourself permission to say, okay, it's all right. Forgiving myself sometimes for a real estate transaction that doesn't quite go as it should. I have learned to do that, believe it or not, and that makes me feel happy that I can accept that and move on and not.
Boy, what is it
Wake
about
up
the
in the
entrepreneur that is just like such a harsh critic internally?
Absolutely.
Where it's like, like there's the times where if somebody else talked to me the way that I used to like talk to
Oh, yeah.
myself, I
Yeah.
would just punch him in the face. But it seemed perfectly natural, or it just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And like one of the things I was telling the new batch here this morning, in the persistence thing is if you don't suck and you don't quit, you'll probably be all right.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
matter what it
absolutely.
is, you know? And that's sort of like my underlying mantra as far as just get the reps.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
get the reps.
Yeah.
And so now let's just, we'll tie it all back up with, okay, so what is your area of expertise, Beth, as far as?
Residential real estate,
Okay.
for sure.
And your territory?
Denton County, really.
Okay. Oh, wow. All right. Yeah. Okay. So you came a couple of minutes away.
A couple minutes. Like, I hang out in Denton, Corinth, Argyle, Flower Mound, Louisville-ish.
All right. Well, I went to UNT for like 15 minutes.
There you go.
So I've been to Denton.
You should see UNT now. Like,
Oh,
it's they've done a lot of improvements.
So for my older Denton folk out there that would have been around in the 80s, I actually pledged the Sammy House, which was...
Oh, yeah, I know where that was. You know what? That's
where
like,
that was.
I drove right. I
Yes.
know where that house
Where it used to
is.
be, it burned down.
But
Yeah.
no. And they rebuilt. And
Yes.
now it's something else. Like, I literally drove by it last week. And, like, not Fortman's, but it's almost like something like that. And I was like, oh, that's so weird. Like, because it's not this. That's such a difference from being the Sammy House, you
Yes,
know?
like what it looked like in 1986 is like
Yes.
basically if you took the movie Animal House and just fast forwarded it about 15 years, and that
There
was
you
that.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, I can't believe you were there when I was there. That is so funny. We hung out with Sig Epps across the street.
Oh yes, there you go. Okay,
Yeah.
well we'll just keep this family friendly, and
Wow.
we won't revisit any real fraternity stories. So, Wayne, what do you got going on? What do you got coming up? Anything fun?
Man, the coolest thing we got coming up is we're doing at the end of April. We're doing a training for real estate team leaders, basically. Like how many real estate? I mean, you know this better than anybody. Like how many real estate team leaders? They're like, I'm going to start a team, and they don't know how to coach their people well. They don't know what kind of they should do for their team meetings, their annual meetings. So we're doing a 2-day intensive for those that are leading teams, how to train, how to retain, and how to coach your team members. So it's going to be amazing. It's like limited to 10 people. We're going to do it here in Dallas. So that's going to be an amazing 2 days, just deep dive to become the best real estate team leader you can. How do I attract them? How do I coach them? How do I keep them? So that's gonna be pretty phenomenal.
Okay,
but I have a question for you.
Okay.
What do you wish you would have been more persistent at? And what are you committed at this point in your life to being persistent at?
So for those that come in, I have like all sorts of goofy guitar stuff, and like my little refrigerator looks like a Marshall amp or whatever. The thing that I wish I would have been persistent at was actually playing live. But back then I had such an imposter syndrome and such I guess the Carol Dweck thing would be I had a fixed mindset where if I wasn't like Eddie Van Halen getting on stage every time,
Yeah.
which only Eddie Van Halen was like Eddie Van Halen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But back then, my idiot mind was if you're not this, then don't.
Yeah.
And in reality, I would say the flip side has been true in my journey here to now, where like 6 months ago, this was a barbershop,
Right.
And so it definitely, I mean, I could do a haircut, but
I would actually be down for that.
I'm not me. But exactly what I said. So like the idea of if you don't suck and you don't quit, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Was based on my learned experience, and actually, so it's not that I regret the whole musician thing or whatever, or not The only thing that I wish I would have done differently or I would have persisted at was like getting through the fear of being, because like now I love going live and I love just being seat of the pants. And so that would be my
Very cool.
my confession.
I love it.
For this week.
Confessions with Rick.
So yes, and so for everybody out there, persistence, keep on keeping on.
Keep on.
And thank you guys.
Thank you.
And for all of y'all that are that want to have a team, talk to Wayne.
Amen.
All right, take us out, Stu. We'll do the freeze frame.